Welcome to the Black Cultural Transformation Movement for Success channel. I'm Brother Coach Blackman. You know, when I started this journey, I started with the idea that I would try to encourage a global African Renaissance. Why me? It's because there's so many people who understand that we need to do something as Black people, not just in America, but around the world. But yet and still, we don't see action. So I thought about it and I realized that leadership is the responsibility really of all of us. We all must do what we can where we are to try to improve conditions for each other. It's no point in talking about global white supremacy or years of oppression through slavery, Jim Crow, the voters' rights problems that we've had in this country and the general problems we've had with discrimination. That's one side of the story. The other side of the story is what we're going to do to be a transformative people. We as African people, wherever we are in the world, are being challenged by our history. And that's why you'll always hear me say that we have not appropriately responded to our history. So what should the response be? Our response should be that we should be all engaged, every man, woman, and child, in trying to recreate the civilization that was destroyed by the slave trade, that was destroyed by racism and discrimination. We all want to see a better world. But charity begins at home before it spreads abroad. We can't expect to join with other people and miraculously solve our problems. It was the Honorable Alhaj Malik Shabazz, better known as Malcolm X, who said that there can be no black-white unity until we first have some black unity. And since the 60s and since the 70s, we've made a monumental effort to try to integrate and become part of the larger American mosaic. And to a large degree, we've achieved that. Yet, large percentages of our people are still in bad shape. Large percentage of our people who think they're doing well are under the illusion that there is no struggle. But the truth is, until we are able to recover our self-esteem and self-respect as a people, we are going to have problems that other groups don't have to suffer from. You see, when you talk about Black consciousness, people get it twisted. They think that it's a race-based conversation. And that's partially true, but it's partially not true. What's not true about it? The truth is that what else do we have to unite around? We have a common history of being enslaved, and part of that enslavement process was to deculturalize us. We lost our names, we lost our languages, we lost our religious beliefs, we lost our connection with our ancestral homeland, and it put us in a situation where the only thing that we can recognize that is obvious to us is that our color is a problem. Our color is a problem because it represents failure and defeat in the American system. Black people are behind. We're being played every day by political powers. We're being played every day by negative social values that really didn't originate in the Black community, but we adopted them in our attempt to integrate with other people. So for example, if you think about it, none of us came over on slave ships with heroin addictions, opioid addictions, crack addictions. None of us showed up here with AIDS. None of us showed up here with idea that we would not value our families and take care of our men, women, and children and our seniors. All of these things are things that we learned in this experience of America. So today you hear people commonly say, oh, it's white supremacy, it's oppression. And to a large degree, you are not being sincere if you're not going to do anything about it except complain about it. I don't want to argue whether or not white supremacy is a reality because we know words have power. What are we really saying when we say white supremacy? What are we really wishing when we say it? Do you think that power concedes anything without a demand, as Frederick Douglass said? No. You can't say to people, hey, you're a white supremacist, and not expect for them to resent you or to see themselves as even being superior. The truth is, God is supreme, and we should turn our attention to becoming a more soulful people as we once were. We have to learn how to identify with spirit and not identify with flesh. If we identify with spirit, we know that God is our Father. God is the author of whatever we can do and cannot do. And God will help those who help themselves. But they must first turn to God. It says in the Quran that God will never change the condition of a people till they first change what's in their hearts. Have we changed what's in our hearts toward us? Well, what is in our hearts? We were taught to hate each other. We were taught to dislike each other. We were taught not to cooperate with each other. We were taught that our whole identity is being a people that betray one another. And we fought for years and years to try to get us into a mindset where we would be a more cooperative and successful people. And then what happened? We went right back to the same kind of plantation conditions beginning in the middle 80s and even earlier, but really in the middle 80s when we started to openly get involved in the buffoonery of calling our women bitches and hoes, of really embracing the satanic image of Black America that was being imposed on us by the Hollywood crowd. How is it that we go from having Malcolm and Dr. King as our heroes in the 60s and 70s, and groups like the Black Panthers and the Black Liberation Army, yet by the 80s and 90s, it's Superfly, the Mac, Scarface, and all these negative images? Don't you know negative culture is designed to get people to destroy themselves? It's with supreme intelligence that your enemy teaches you how to destroy yourself. People say they want to wash their hands clean of Black America. We are destructive. And they ultimately understand that our own behavior today is what's doing us in. If you want to talk about genocide, you have to look no further than our own culture. You see, they don't have to come out and shoot us. I know we complain. We scream about Black Lives Matter every time a Black person is shot by a white person, which is a legitimate complaint. I've marched in many protests prior to the Black Lives Matter movement against the murder of Black people by police and police brutality. But that's a small part of the problem. The problem is that culturally, we are not a protected people because we don't protect each other. There's two things that should protect you in life. That is walking in righteousness and being with God. And the second thing is the people around you understand that it is their moral obligation and their duty to make life better for one another. It's us who have to make our dreams come true. It's us who have to be the cooperative people that make it wonderful to be born Black. Imagine a society where we all help each other and we all put our efforts into making life better for each other. It's one thing to suffer, but it's one thing to suffer needlessly and foolishly because we don't help each other and we don't cooperate with each other. In fact, Black culture today is nothing more than the culture of betrayal. Now, that's not a culture that we wanted, but that's a culture that was imposed on us through all kinds of psychological operations. You see, when you study African people, and that's who we really are at our root, we're people who were kidnapped for the most part and brought to America. Now, there's a lot of people who don't identify with being Black or identify with being African, and that's fine. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to us who still have that honesty, who still understand that the liberation movement is alive today. What we don't have is organization. What we don't have is what other peoples have. Let's look at the Asians. Look at Chinese people. They have social organization that allows them to cut through the world and make nothing but progress. 50 years ago, China was in the dust. Today, look at the Chinese. They're taking over the world. You look at other groups. They have social organization to a higher degree than we have. So it's our job to become a socially organized people. But how do we do that? How do we find unity? You know, in my first book, I talked about how the Africans who were brought over to the Americas, and when I say American Africans, I'm talking about all the people up and down from Central America, South America, the Caribbean islands, all the way through Canada. I'm talking mostly about the African diaspora because these are called the Americas. So when we talk about who's a Black American, we should have a more inclusive view to remember our brothers in the Caribbean islands, to remember our brothers and sisters in South America. When you discard other aspects of your people, you only weaken yourself. Remember, they used to say a problem shared is half solved. All of us have the same problems. We're trying to throw off the yokes of imperialism, slavery. We're trying to throw off the yokes of colonialism. And we're trying to respond to the deculturalization that was done to Africans on this side of the world. In order for us to take part in a global African Renaissance, in order for us to be the people that help themselves and to solve their own problems, we need to come together. But we need to come together in a way that reflects African values. We should be an honorable people. We should be a responsible people. We should be a people who set up their existence around protecting family and community. We should do all of those things. But in order for us to do those things, we have to have minds that are rightly guided. That's why when they talk about righteousness, they're talking about right thinking. You have to think the right way in order to act the right way. So what is wrong with our thinking? Very simply stated, we have not regained control of our minds. We were trying to have mastery and control of our minds in the 60s and maybe part of the 70s, but today we have totally given our minds up to an agenda that's designed to teach us and to maintain us in oppression. The white man can say today that the black man is his chief oppressor. We look at the crime statistics, we look at the abandonment of children by their fathers and even by their mothers. People think that just because you maintain a child and you pay the bills and all of that stuff that you're raising a child. We're not really raising our children in Black America because we can see the results. It's not the school system's job to just educate your children. That's their stated position. But the truth is education is 365 days a year, 24/7, and it happens everywhere. Creation is the teacher. We should be teaching in our homes. And the first thing we should be teaching our children is how to think about their situation as being black in America. If you just accept your blackness as advertised in popular media and whatnot, you're going to be a fool, because you are telling people that just because we had a civil rights movement, just because we decided that we are going to try to integrate with the same people who lynched us, who killed us, who robbed us, who murdered us, who kept us in a sharecropping position, who played all kinds of games with that, just because a few laws are passed, we are going to, their sentiment has changed. All around America, when you look at white people, they're living way better than black people. Why? They have social organization and they have the head start of all the wealth they stole from us. So how do we respond to that? Here's the irony. We've never been in a better position to resolve a lot of the major problems that we suffer from as a people. But the biggest thing we have to do is get control of our minds. We have to get control of our communities. We have to get control of our families. We have to get control of ourselves. We have to divest and having all our thoughts around the American political system and what white folks haven't done for us and where the reparations are going to come from. I'm not even arguing whether or not you should get them or not. If you get them, good luck to you. I know they gave you a holiday. I didn't see no reparations come with that. They talked a lot about during election time, and they're going to do it again because we keep going for the same thing. But I'm not here for a political message. I'm neither a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a person that is concerned about the condition, the fate, the destiny of his people. And what I know is that we are prepared to create a great destiny. Africa is ready. Africa is ready. And Africa is our homeland. That's our base of operations. And what we should understand is that there's opportunities for trade and economic advancement. The world is changing rapidly. It's been a Western-centered thing. That's getting ready to change. You don't want to get left behind by just identifying with America and having no connection to the place you come from. Mexicans are strong in part because they know they have the land of Mexico. Chinese are strong in this country because they know they have China behind them. And every other racial group has some connection with their ancestral homeland and the people there that gives them a sense of direction, it gives them a sense of cultural identity, and it gives them a reason to work together. Our reason to work together is more imperative than anybody else's. Our very survival depends on our ability to work together as a people. So what are you going to do as a black man or a black woman? Do you know it's our responsibility, as it is for every generation, to maintain the freedom movement and maintain our position as a people who want to see constant incremental improvement in the conditions of their people? We have to restore dignity that was taken from us as a people. We have to have self-respect restored to us as a people. We need a massive self-respect movement in this country. If we respected ourselves, we stop talking about the noise on the news and start talking about what is going to be the condition of black people in this country 50 years from now. You think you're suffering now? And a lot of it is not even material. In fact, most of our material suffering today is because we are not building banks. We're not building our own independent supermarket chains. We're not building our own anything. Why? Because we are not even building the fundamental that brings all of that into being. That is the family. We have to get back to a perspective that says My dignity lies in organizing my family life and respecting myself and making sure that that legacy is protected. We have to protect our young men and our young women. It's appalling that this late in the day, our children, our homes are headed by single mothers. And a lot of these single mothers are ill-equipped intellectually because they don't know the history. It's not that they're not smart enough, it's just that they have not investigated the history. Families need guidance, they need protection. And we need to have an attitude that we need to be accountable to family, because you say so much in the way you take care of your children. No civilized society fails to plan for their children's future. When I lived in Brooklyn many years ago, I noticed that if a Jewish young man or young woman was arrested, the rabbi was right at the precinct to make sure the charges were mitigated to the absolute minimum. And they had a whole organized approach to making sure their youth was protected. With all the black kids that get arrested, where is our liaisons with these precincts that are destroying the lives and futures of so many young black men and women? Why don't we have our own community patrols? Why don't we have the kind of respect that says we can take charge and take control over what's happening in our community? We have the ability to do anything that we want to do. God has not given to the white man, the China man, the Hispanic man, or any other kind of man something he didn't give to the black man. The black man must honor himself. The black woman must honor herself. And we must respect and love what God created in us. Our uniqueness is our strength. Our uniqueness is our power. Us relating to each other is where the power really is. All of the arguments of being disrespected and all the gossip and all the dislike is because we don't understand that we are one. Okay? You can't have any world peace or world unity until all the people of the world respect themselves. If Africa remains divided, you'll see interventions by all kinds of countries around the world to play us because we're fighting amongst ourselves. We need to unite. And we in the African diaspora, we specifically here in the United States, can play a vital role in the global transformation of the image of the black people. No matter what you do in life, your life should be meaningful. In order for you to have a meaningful life, you really need to do things that ennoble your life. Okay? God is just. And if God is just, we must be the instruments, if we're with God, of justice. And justice says that black people need to turn to each other with intelligence, with love, with compassion, and with hard work to try to change a negative situation into a positive situation. We cannot continue to be the minions of white people. We cannot be a subculture in America where we wait and decide, we wait to do what we need to do based on what white Americans are doing. We have a whole different historical agenda. White people are trying to preserve their power. We're trying to get some power. And the power that we're trying to get is right in our hands. We have resources, we have money, we have each other. Imagine if every black man and black woman looked at the next black man and black woman as an asset, as a brother, as a sister, somebody that's fighting on their same side to solve a problem. So we are calling for cultural transformation. We're calling for change for our people. And all of us know that this should be done. I'm not saying anything new. But what I'm saying is that all of us must use our voice, whether we're on social media, wherever we are, to spread the message that it's time for a dramatic change in the condition of black people. The world is moving on, and we have to move right along with it. It's time for us to stop playing the step and fetch it games. It's time for us to stop being in lockstep with white culture, which we know is not our real culture. Okay, we didn't come here as a people that didn't love family life. We didn't come here as a people. I mean, you go all across Africa. I've been to Namibia. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Senegal. I've been to Cameroon. I've been to Gabon. I've been to Ivory Coast. I've been to a lot of places in Africa. And everywhere you go and you find African culture, it's all about strong family life, fatherhood, motherhood, community, culture. We have to have cultural centers all over Black America. We got all these abandoned churches, all these abandoned buildings. We need to rebuild culture where we teach the history. Not that we be locked in history, not that we should be locked in our history, but we should use our history as inspiration to make sure we never again allow people to exploit us economically, to exploit us politically, to sever the relationship between the man and the woman, to make us disrespect ourselves, to make us dislike the very physicality that God created us in. Black people are beautiful people with good hearts. We all start off that way. But we come into a world that teaches us to hate ourselves because we have not shaped the world for ourselves where we are the winners. We are the people that are creating a culture that we can live in. Okay? Every environment is not for everybody. You send some people to a tropical environment, it suits them. You send some people to an Arctic environment or a cold environment, it suits them because that's what their history and their genetic evolution has been. The black man cannot live in a society that is loveless. The black man cannot live in a society that's based on competition. The black man will live and thrive in a society that's based on cooperation. That's the real African program. And prior to the European domination of the African continent and prior to the slave trade, we had a lot of these things in place. We must recover that. We must recover our self-respect. We must recover our power as a people. It's up to you and it's up to me. All of us can do something. It was the great Martin Luther King who said, all of us can be great because all of us can serve. We must be of service to one another. We must be of service to our people. We must be of service to our families. We must be of service to ourselves. This is very important. What really matters in life is the legacy that you leave. I've seen Jewish people leave whole hospital wings and do all kinds of things for their people. And they will not be forgotten because they have left a mark of something that improves the lives of people yet to come. We have to think that way. The more you try to solve the cultural problems of black people, you'll start to solve more of your personal problems. Black people are overwhelmed with personal problems. They wonder why. Our women wonder why a lot of them don't have mates. Our men wonder why a lot of them don't have mates. We talk about the high incarceration levels. We talk about all of the sicknesses that afflict our community in disproportional numbers than other people. All people have problems. I'm not saying they don't. But I'm saying our people are particularly afflicted with problems that are so solvable with just a little civilized behavior. And when I say civilized behavior, that means working together, being civil with each other, being respectful to each other, being cooperative with each other. So this is my message for today, and I want you to like and subscribe to the channel because these are the conversations we're going to have every day until we start to build a movement in this country that really works for us. I hear so many people on the line talking about what BLM didn't do and what you call it. Well, here's a movement that's talking about addressing the very issues that we're talking about. Let's not just keep being a reactionary people. Oh, they kill a black man, we're going to go march in the street as if that's going to solve a problem. Let's be a people that plan for our success. It's all in planning. It's all in discipline. It's all in being with the Creator. That's our natural inclination, to be with God. We are believing people. We used to have soul. Let's get some of that back. Let's stop identifying with flesh and identify with spirit. Because the Spirit of God is in all of us. We can change anything that we want to. But we have to get back to being the people we once were. And that was the people that had group concern instead of just focusing all the time on individual concern. We live in an environment where we create hell on earth for each other because we don't really have a common agenda. It was the Honorable Malcolm X who once said, you live in a ghetto and you complain about it, but you ghettoize it yourself. We have to look at each other and say to ourselves that, hey, listen, we can make any environment pleasant if we want to. We can speak to each other. We can be respectful to each other. We can stop throwing trash all around each other. We can stop victimizing each other with crime. We can start preparing for the development of our youth and get our children off the street. It's a shame that black boys today, you can go some places around the country and they clean their windows in the streets. Where's the organization by the senior level of people? Okay, so as I get older, I'm raising 4 children. I'm very proud of the development in my children. Me and my wife have kept our relationship, our marriage together for nearly 20 years. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just simply saying I was fortunate enough to know that the number one responsibility we have is to love each other and to respect each other and to keep our relationships sacred. Okay, and all this comes from understanding that our power comes from a spiritual commitment. Okay, we have to be with God. We can't be successful without God. And go to God any way you want to, but be sincere. Because part of our problem is we're not sincere enough. We're not serious enough as a people to solve our problems. And if we become serious, a lot of the pain and the suffering that we're in as a people will start to dissipate. I'm Brother Coach Blackman. Hope you enjoyed this message. Look for more like this on the Black Cultural Transformation Movement for Success channel. Thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe.